Hello students, this is the fourth video I am uploading related to the chapter The First War of Independence. In previous three videos I have discussed the causes which has led to the revolt of 1857. Today I'll be discussing with the consequences which has led to the First War of Independence. Now there were the various results which has led to the First War of Independence. That was end of the company's rule, Queen Victoria's proclamation, end of Mughals rule, relation with princely states, divide and rule policy, racial antagonism, foreign policy, religious changes, changes in the army, gulf between Hindu and Muslims, and rise of nationalism. So the first consequence or the result of the revolt was end of company's rule. In year 1858, the Government of India Act was passed, which had various provisions. Various provisions were there, in which the first provision or the foremost important provision was that it ended the company's rule. Rather, I would say the transfer of power was made from company to crown. Which company? East India Company to the British Crown. So all the powers which was there previously in the hands of company was now transferred to the British Crown. In short, it was held by the British Parliament. Along with that, another change which has taken place, that was the formation of the post Secretary of State. In place of directors of the company and the board of control, now the power was to be exercised by the new post, that was the Secretary of State. He was the member of the British Council and was responsible to the Parliament. Which Parliament? That was the British Parliament. So indirectly, our country was governed by the British Parliament. His salary was told to be paid out by the revenues of India. So as we can see, the post or the person, Secretary of State, though he was working for the British Parliament, for the Britishers, but his salary and allowances were paid by the Indians, by the revenues which were collected from the Indians. Then it was told that he was to be assisted by a 15-member India Council. So a post of Secretary of State was created, under whom 15 more members will be working, and all the burden of this economy of their salary and allowances was on the Indians, the revenues which were collected from the Indians. Then, apart from this, what change was there? That was that now the post of Governor General will be called by Viceroy or Crown's personal representative. So, as the word personal suggests to us, that means all the information, everything will be transferred, everything will be communicated to the British Parliament directly. So now the post of Governor General was supposed to be called as the Viceroy, and the first Viceroy of India was Lord Canning. Do remember this thing, children, because frequently this is asked in board's examination, that who was the first Viceroy of India. Answer is Lord Canning. Then appointment was supposed to be taken of civil services was made by open competition. Now it was told that the open competitions will be held and the eligible candidates will be appointed for the civil services. Then Queen Victoria's proclamation. According to Queen Victoria, various proclamations were held or announcements were made by Queen Victoria. In that, the first one was policy of non-intervention, which means that now onwards Britishers will not interfere into any kind of social and religious matters of Indians. Like we have seen the causes in which we have discussed that the social cause, one of the cause was abolishment of sati, due to which Indians sentiments were hurt a lot and they revolted against the Britishers, right? So it was told now that Britishers will not interfere into any kind of social and religious matters of Indians. Then it was announced that all the subjects here means people, that all the subjects will be treated equally, whether they are Indians or Europeans, all of them will be treated equally. As you remember, this was also one of the cause that lot of discrimination was made on the basis of race or caste. So therefore, now this announcement was made by Queen Victoria that all the Indians and Europeans will be treated equally, and grant general pardon was given to all those who had taken part in the war, except those who has found guilty of murder of British subjects. So as we know, many people have participated in the revolt of 1857 and many were arrested. So now, according to the proclamation, all those people will be set free, and only those people will be refrained or will be taken back, those who have been found guilty of murder of British people or British subject. Then the third point, that is the end of Mughals and Peshwas. As we know, the last Mughal emperor was Bahadur Shah Zafar and the last Peshwa was Baji Rao, and his adopted son was Nana Sahib. So both important families, or rather I would say both important power of the country now came to an end after the revolt, because the suppression was made to Mughals and Peshwas. Therefore, so Bahadur Shah Zafar as well as Nana Sahib, both of them, their rule came to an end. Then relations with princely states. It was promised by the British government that loyalty of the Indian princes, those who were very loyal during the time of revolt, Indian prince, those who were very loyal to the Britishers during the revolt, their rights to adopt the heir will be respected, and in future their territories will not be annexed. Those promises were made by the Britishers, as because they have got it as a reward to be loyal to the Britishers during the revolt. Policy of divide and rule. Now it was told that the Britishers will adopt the policy of divide and rule. Rather, we have seen and we have noticed in our Indian history that this policy was actually introduced by the Britishers itself, because they have always tried to divide a country on the basis of the religion, Hindu and Muslim. Rather, more subdivisions they have made through the caste system, giving it flame to the caste system. Then racial antagonism, again the racial discrimination. So previously, just now we have seen Queen Victoria's proclamation that it was announced that all the people will be treated equally, but here again the change, the consequence we have seen of the revolt, that racial antagonism was followed. That means racial discrimination was still followed after the revolt, and still the Indians were ill treated and they were discriminated. Now next change, next result, that is the foreign policy. The foreign policy now which was adopted by the Britishers was first to protect of its Indian empire. Now they stopped annexing the territories or increasing the territories, rather they started to protect the empire whatever they were having. And next, expansionist policy which they have followed, they wanted to follow it for the economic and commercial interest, and wanted to expand their economical and commercial interest to not even in Asia but also in Africa. Apart from this, another change which has taken place after the revolt was religious changes. In this as we have promised before, that non-interference of the religion, affair, customs and tradition of India will not be done by the Britishers. They are not going to interfere in either of the things which are related to the Indians. Then the major changes which were made in the army. First, the strength of European troops in India was increased. As you remember, in causes we have discussed that number of Indian soldiers were much more in British army as compared to the British soldiers. So now this was the major change which Britishers have done, that now they have increased the British soldiers more as compared to the Indian soldiers. Then at the important places, if you remember, we have discussed in causes that at the important places Allahabad and Delhi, Indian soldiers were in charge. So now to change their mistake, or to they have Britishers learned from the mistake, and to rectify that mistake, what they did, they now started keeping the British soldiers at the geographical and at the important military positions, the key geographical and military positions. Now British soldiers were kept over there, or they were appointed. Then sophisticated weapons and ammunitions were now placed under charge of Britishers. And the policy of balance and counterpoise, or divide and rule, was practiced during recruitment to army. Again, while appointment during the army, the balance and counterpoise and divide and rule policy was followed. Balance and counterpoise is the other term which we use for the divide and rule. Now, newspaper and journals, it was told, it will be prevented from reaching the soldiers. It will be kept away far to reach from the soldiers, that they will not be allowed to read the newspapers and journals. Why? Because such things initiate the feelings, nationalistic feelings among the Indian soldiers. So therefore it was told to stay away from all these kinds of things. Then rise of nationalism. After the revolt, the spirit of nation, love for nation, has increased a lot in the Indians, and they knew that this is the way through which they can show their anger towards the Britishers, and if they'll be united, they can even defeat the Britishers. And it is not that the Britishers are invincible, they can also be won over. Widening of gulf between Hindus and Muslim. So, due to the racial antagonism and racial discrimination, it has widened the gulf of the gap. Gulf means the gap between Hindus and Muslim, because this is what the policy which Britishers have adopted of divide and rule, or balance or counterpoise. So, with this, children, we conclude our today's chapter, that is the First War of Independence.